The way we lead impacts the way people live. This world needs truly human leadership.
I also think the expectation and desire for growth and development is very high in the workforce, and so I think trying to find ways to do that is going to become more and more important to leaders to attract and retain the talented people that they want. And just the competition out there. I mean, everything is just happening so fast. Everybody's got to eat their Wheaties every day to stay on top of it all.
I'm Brent Stewart, your host. Thanks for listening. This podcast is an outreach of Barry-Wehmiller. You can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram at Barry-Wehmiller, and find our podcasts, articles, and videos at trulyhumanleadership.com. Dr. Melinda Bremley is the newest partner at Chapman & Co. Leadership Institute, Barry-Wehmiller's consulting arm that specializes in helping other organizations unleash the extraordinary in their businesses and their people. Melinda and the rest of the team at Chapman & Co. do this by helping those organizations identify, develop, and equip their leaders. You can learn more about Chapman & Co. on their website, ccoleadership.com. Melinda has over 25 years of experience in executive coaching, excelling in nurturing leadership at various career stages. At Chapman & Co., Melinda plays a pivotal role in realizing their mission, bringing extensive experience in creating and maintaining selection processes across organizational levels. Notably, she also spearheads succession planning and CEO-president performance feedback processes. Before joining Chapman & Co., Melinda held senior leadership roles at Psychological Associates and founded Bremley Partners Consulting. She's also an adjunct professor of graduate studies at Villanova University, sharing her extensive knowledge and expertise in the field of industrial organizational psychology. On this podcast, we'd like to introduce you to Dr. Melinda Bremley through a discussion she has with two other Chapman & Co. team members, Morgan Witzig and Jessie Turner. They'll talk about Melinda's background and experience, but also talk about leadership coaching, the benefits of assessments, AI in leadership, and Melinda talks about some of the biggest challenges she is seeing leaders face at the moment.
Welcome. I am Morgan Witzig. This is Jessie Turner, and we're here to interview one of our newest team members at Chapman & Co., Melinda Bremley, who joins us as a partner. But we thought it would be fun to get to know you better, as well as for our clients and our audience to get to know you and the work that you do and the impact that you've had up until now and will continue to have. You have a PhD in a field called industrial organizational psychology. We have a lot of questions about that.
Okay.
But for starters, we might want to know what industrial organizational, or IO, I think as it's called. What is that field?
Well, it's not what my family and most of my friends assume, which is that you have a couch in an office building working with corporate types doing counseling. That's what my family always thinks. So I'd always try to explain it in simple terms, that it's really studying people in the world of work. And I was interested in psychology even in high school. I took a college psych course and thought it was really fascinating. And then when I got to college and had a chance to take a deeper dive, I saw there were all these different types of psychology. And at University of Illinois, where I went as an undergrad, I think they had like 10 or 12 specialties you could concentrate on. And one of them was IO Psych. And I had talked to some other students about it. I'm like, what is this, industrial psychology? And they're like, no, it's really cool. It's about kind of the business side of things, but also the people involved in the business. And there's a numbers element to it too, with statistics and things, which I also liked. So it was a really good blend. And the more coursework I took, the more I was convinced it was the right choice for me.
Melinda, could you tell us about a professional experience that impacted your career or just the way that you view leadership in this field of IO?
Sure. So there are a variety of different ways. Like at a broader level, I would say the work that I did earlier days in my career was more about that statistical analysis. And so I would look at assessments for selection and promotion, and I would do the stats around doing profile studies or validation studies. And it really helped me better understand what's going on in different companies. And for example, you would think, oh, a store manager, that's a store manager role. Surely we're looking for the same things. It will be pretty straightforward. And we had a lot of different clients in the retail sector. And what I learned from looking at these things at like Neiman Marcus and Saks, both luxury goods, totally different profiles for success in that particular position. And so it really kind of showed me the importance of this assessment work that we do, that it's not just a cookie cutter, one size fits all, that you really can learn a lot about people from these assessments and then kind of diving deeper with them. And so that was fun and continues to be fun at a group level. But I would say a lot of what I find really rewarding nowadays is more at an individual level, where I get an opportunity to work with people doing coaching and development. And I think back to one woman that I worked with that I had been asked to work with her because she was experiencing a lot of turnover on her team. People were not happy. They felt like she was too directive and commanding or demanding with them. And so I worked with her, and she was not exactly thrilled to start the process. And we did an assessment. I did a live 360 where I interviewed the people around her. And it was so fascinating. Once again, I go back to data, and I looked at her data, and I'm like, wow, I'm looking at this profile, and this just does not match the descriptions that I'm hearing from the people around her. What's the deal? What is going on here? She seemed very warm, very friendly, playful. All of these characteristics, these words, never ever came close to being mentioned when I was interviewing her team. And so I'm talking with her about it, and we have a few sessions, and I'm sharing the data. I'm like, so what do you think? Is this real? Is this not real? Oh, absolutely. That's me to a T. And I'm like, all right, so then why are we hearing these other things from your team? Well, they just don't get me. They don't understand me. I said, well, let's step back for a minute and let's think about this. If I would invite some of your best friends to your office to say, hey, what do you think here? What would they see? Would it be the same person that they were used to seeing? Or is it someone very different? Oh my gosh, they would never recognize me. I am so different. But that's with my friends. I'm different with my friends. I'm like, well, the way you are with your friends is how I see you as a person. So let's work through what's getting in the way. And it was fascinating that she described her father had come over from Europe, worked his way up the ladder and became a CEO, and gave her great advice and was like, here are all the things you need to do to succeed. You need to be hard-nosed. You need to be driving, demand the best of everyone. Don't accept anything except perfection. And she respected her dad, and she believed it. So that's the way she lived her work life. And it wasn't working. Times had changed. I don't know if it worked for him, but he got certain rewards for it. But we had to tease apart the things she had been reinforced for. She was succeeding because she was getting things done, but the way she was doing it wasn't really productive or sustainable for the company. And once we got that door open and talked about different options, she really did start to change. She stopped and she thought about it. And it's as simple as I remember her saying, I walked around the office this morning, Melinda, and I talked with everybody before I went and sat at my desk. And that was just like a complete game changer for her. So she kept doing all these things. And then later on, I think I coached her for about 9 months. And at the end, the company was like, wow, this is an incredible transformation. We were so thrilled with this. And she told me, she was like, Melinda, I absolutely was like, you are full of it, telling me to do this. This is all this touchy-feely psychology stuff. But then as we talked about it, it wasn't touchy-feely. It was just basic. It was just me letting myself be who I am at work, still getting things done, but doing it in a way that was more, suited to our environment. And she said, I thought for sure I was going to lose my edge doing this. And I thought that was so interesting. And so often you have to sit there and tap into what's driving these behaviors, why are they doing it, and how can we help them make some changes without changing who they are. And that foundationally is what just really kind of keeps me motivated and engaged in working with these executives, because that's just really fun to help them recognize I can be who I am, but I can be even a better version of who I am. So I go into each coaching engagement thinking about that.
That's a great story. I feel like it taps into a couple things that I'm curious about. The first one being, it sounds like this particular example is someone exemplifying the things that we hold on a pedestal in the business world: to be a driver, to be an achiever, to be ruthless about the results that you want to achieve.
Yeah.
What has been your observation? Is this a larger pattern of folks of like, hey, that only works to a certain extent? Tell me more about that.
I think that it can be. It all goes back to what people are reinforced for. Mm-hmm. And I think so often in their careers, they are accidentally reinforced for doing certain things, and they don't realize that wasn't what helped me succeed. Maybe it was my smarts on this issue. I was just really good at handling this. It wasn't me driving and, intimidating people that made me succeed. And so they have a hard time, I think, separating out their behaviors from what's really effective. And so as organizations, what I find are the best leaders are so good at this, at figuring that out. And they're always looking outward, and they're always asking their team, how can I do better? What do you need from me? And that they're great role models for these other individuals to get less caught up in, hey, it's the bottom line only. I really think most organizations now, it's not enough to have the bottom line, at a certain spot. It needs to be how you do it as well. At least that's a change I've seen in the course of my career, become much stronger.
Yeah. I also am curious about this work that you've done with organizations in the beginning of your career, more group-oriented, to the passion that lies in more the individual leaders. What is it about that one-on-one that strikes a spark for you?
I think it's just the connection that you can see of the work that you do directly having an impact. With the groups, it's harder to see that. It's more of an over time. You start to see, oh, wow, look, we're helping them get better placements into these positions. They stay longer. Their culture surveys look better. Hopefully their numbers are also going in the right direction. So all of that, I think, happens. But there are a lot of other variables coming to play as well. So you kind of disconnect a little bit from that. You don't get that immediate reinforcement. Whereas coaching, I think you directly get reinforcement, and you get feedback from the person and from their leader, and their organization will talk with you about, hey, here are the things we saw. We love this. This is great. Can you help us? And it's always nice when they ask for more too, when they want you to work with other leaders. That's really fun.
So you have taken all of this experience and given the most generous gift, which is to share it with others. You're an adjunct professor at Villanova.
Yeah.
What do you most enjoy about that work?
There are a couple of pieces that I really like about that work. One of them is the students themselves. It's a graduate level program, and so I'm working with people who are at various stages in their careers in a single classroom. So that's really interesting. You'll have people who are right out of school, maybe a couple of years, and then you'll have people at the C level of organizations who are like, hey, I want to learn more about human resources. I want to be more credentialed. And so they will be taking the same classes side by side. And so it's really nice to see them working together. So that's one element that I really enjoy. And then another piece of it is kind of a passive way for me to stay up to date with what's going on in the world, because I teach organization development and workforce planning, and on different occasions, and I will read a lot of the students' research, and they do a great job, and it's so fascinating. We'll give them the same topic, and I will get so many different data points that come back to me when I'm looking at their papers.
TikTok,
Yeah.
Twitter,
Well,
Instagram.
actually, we ask them to be credentialized. We're like, hey, have peer-reviewed journal articles, please. But it is just wonderful to hear them come up with these different, what they'll focus on, but also I get to see the latest and greatest. What are people doing out there, and can we use that in other places?
I'm curious, what would be one thing, if your students could take away one thing from your courses, what would that be?
The importance of getting buy-in. I emphasize that with any course that I teach, as because it's a human resources program, and any work that you do, it does not matter how well you do it or how smart you are. if you do not get buy-in from the audience around you, from the groups that are going to be impacted, you are not going to be as successful as you could be. I always put a thing up. People can make a brilliant plan fail, and people can make a crappy plan work. And I have seen it many times with different leadership teams that I've worked with. And I'm like, boy, if you can get that message, you are going to help yourself out with your career. Don't think you're smarter than everybody. You need their input. You need their buy-in.
Yeah, someone very wise once told me that, hey, your idea times, if it's a multiplication equation, your idea times 0 buy-in is an outcome of 0.
That's right.
So it doesn't matter if you have the loudest idea in the room.
That's right.
I didn't love that advice, but...
Because you had a great idea, right? You're
exactly.
like, come on.
Exactly.
I just don't get it.
You got Melinda's buy-in to do this podcast, so
There
here we
you go.
are.
Yeah.
Full 100%.
Well, all of the knowledge and experience that you've acquired over the years, and 12 years of your own business, and now Chapman & Co.
Yeah.
We're so grateful that you have decided to share your wealth of knowledge and experience with us. But tell us about why Chapman & Co. Why now?
It was really kind of a happy accident, I would say. I mean, I was very satisfied and happy with my own business. I had a lot of freedom to work with clients I wanted, do the type of work that I wanted, when I wanted to do it. So just tons of flexibility, and I enjoyed that, and the close connections with my clients, because my intention was to be a one-man shop. I wanted to partner with my clients, but I was the person they would be working with. And so while I really liked it, it was something that with COVID, things changed a lot. I used to go to my clients very actively, and so I got all of that socialization around other people. So I started to feel less engaged and less involved, but it was also just something that with David Weller and I actually worked together many moons ago at Psychological Associates, and he and I would stay in touch over the years. We'd have lunch and talk about family and business and how things were going. And the last time he and I spoke, he said, hey, Melinda, once again, I want to bring this up. We're at a different phase now. Because he talked with me about just being a part of his team before. And this time he said, Karen and I are planning on stepping back from this, and we would love it if you could come in and help carry it forward for us. And I was like, wow, that's really great, David. But yeah, I think I'm going to pass on that. I like my freedom,
Uh-huh.
And then I went home and I thought about it, and I was like, wait, that's not taking my own advice. I always tell people, explore, listen, consider different options. And so I said, hey, David, I probably jumped the gun with that. Why don't we chat? And he and Karen and I were sitting in this room, and they talked with me about all the different things that they have going on. They talked about Chapman & Co. and the growth that they were hoping would happen. And it was a very compelling scenario, and it was exciting. He was showing me all the tools that they had and the things they were doing and all the people on the team. And it really resonated with me because I had been out of leadership then for 12 years. And it would be a chance for me to get back into a leadership position doing the work that I love. So that's the why.
Yeah, we don't often think about the opposite side of this. Often folks describe the dream as, I want to work for me. We don't often talk about the impact that has when I report to me, I lead me, I arrange for me, I project plan me, how isolating that can feel.
Yeah, and it really was, and it just really compounded with COVID. Because prior to that, I was out a lot with clients, and then afterwards, though, people got so familiar and comfortable with doing everything via Zoom and Teams that it never quite picked up the way it had. And so I was like, I need to find another way to be a part of things again that will still do this work. So I'm hoping all of it switches more the way it had been at some point, but right now it's a good spot.
Yeah. And as partner at Chapman & Co., there are a couple of different ways that you'll be impacting our organization. Externally, with the clients you'll continue to serve in the work that you are so experienced and brilliant in. But as you mentioned, you're also stepping back into a leadership role. I'm curious what your vision is for the future, what you hope your impact to look like, not only outside but inside our team.
I would say inside, I'll start there, it would be to really continue what David and Karen have started. That as I've met with the team members and heard about their experiences with the team, it's very impressive what they've done and how connected everybody feels with them. And so I want to kind of build on that and expand on it. And also I want to kind of keep looking forward and challenge all of us to say, hey, are there different ways to do things? Are there, other things we should tackle and approach? And I think it will be fun to listen to their ideas and kind of shape them a little bit. But so far, I'm really impressed with all of them. I think they're very, very professional, and I think it'll be a nice spot for me to be in. And hopefully, I'll give them something too. And I love talking assessment, and so that's something already we're like, exchanging that lingo all the time. I like talking about different assessment tools and scales and such.
Listen, the onboarding plan is working. She has no idea what she's gotten herself into. Good. How about outside? Impact you hope to continue that you were making?
Yeah, I would say I'm excited about really operating on a bigger team at a bigger scale. I think it gives more opportunities. There are some things that I really had to step back from a bit when I was on my own, that I understand where clients might say, hey, we really need something bigger for this. We need, more manpower behind this. And so I'm excited about going back out to some of those and seeing what we can do out there, but also just continuing to help these different clients meet their needs. That finding out with Chapman and Co. and Leadership Alliance blending, I think it's going to be a really, really nice opportunity to kind of share the wealth with that.
Yeah. I think that's a great segue into what are the most significant challenges that you think leaders are facing? And then we'll flip that, but let's just start on the tough stuff.
I think that one of the most obvious ones is the whole back to work, back in the office, return to office is something I hear constantly from different leaders worrying about, did we make the right decision? Should we change our mind on this? So from a timing standpoint, I think that's very challenging. But I also think the expectation and desire for growth and development is very high in the workforce. And so I think trying to find ways to do that is going to become more and more important to leaders to attract and retain the talented people that they want. And just the competition out there. I mean, everything is just happening so fast. Everybody's got to eat their Wheaties every day to stay on top of it all.
Lucky Charms.
Lucky Charms, we'll go with that, yes.
Some substance and some
And
sweetness.
some fun.
Let's try and get a balance of both. How about the opportunities? If those are the challenges, where do you think that leaders can really capitalize in this moment?
I just think there is no limit to how work can be done. I think creativity is so important right now, and it is just, it's mind-boggling how fast things can change. And I think as organizations and leaders try to tap into that, it's go time for all of that. I think it will be a wonderful opportunity for companies to say, hey, where do we go with that? And of course, AI is a big piece of it, but just in general, the creative options that are out there, there seems to be more openness to it now than I think there used to be. Everything happens faster.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, to tie in your love of books, love of learning, and also it sounds like, just true enjoyment of helping others grow and develop. To our listeners out there, what book or which thought leader would you recommend a leader, seek out to develop their own skills or to take advantage of these opportunities?
I tend to take a pretty individualized focus when I am talking with leaders about different things to read, but a safe bet as an author would be Ram Charan, that he has so many different books that are out there. He's partnered with so many other business leaders as well. His execution book with Larry Bossidy is so popular and so, just really well regarded. What every CEO wants you to know. are also ones that kind of help people get more steeped in things. And an oldie but goodie that I enjoy, that a CEO had me read, his team read it, Only the Paranoid Survive by Andy Grove with Intel, talking about strategic inflection points. If anybody wants to look into that, it was a really compelling concept that I frequently use when I'm coaching people.
So interesting.
Yeah.
We said the word AI, and I just want to visit it for a second. We've talked a lot about how AI is going to impact the workforce. How do you think it's going to impact the role of the leader?
I think there can be real benefits to it and real downsides to it. I think a leader can become much better steeped in certain areas much more quickly if they are asking the right questions the right way, that it can give them, some information. But the minus side is that exact same point. If they're not asking the question the right way, they could be misinformed all of a sudden and in a very convincing way. And that's the piece where it's like still sifting through what is real, what isn't, because it's like, hey, if everything out there is one point of view and you use AI, well, then it's going to give you that one point of view and lots of it. But then as soon as you learn something else, you're like, oh, wow, I have a totally different perspective of this now. Well, if that wasn't in the pool to begin with, and you thought, oh, everything was in there, but it really wasn't, then it becomes a problem. And so I think people have to be very flexible about, maybe this hasn't told me everything I need to know. Although recently it was kind of interesting, an executive actually that Karen and I met with talked about using AI to take a letter, I think, to a vendor and to make it a little bit more stern, is what he said. And he said it did a beautiful job with it. So I was like, well, that's an interesting use of it. So
Interesting. Doesn't sound like AI will be my manager anytime soon.
Again, you can learn more about Dr. Melinda Bremley and Chapman & Co. on their website, ccoleadership.com. Don't forget to find us and connect on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram at Barry-Wehmiller. And you can find more podcasts, articles, and videos at trulyhumanleadership.com. I'm Brent Stewart. Thanks for listening.